Oh, sorry, you caught me unawares, drinking out of this awesome cup which has the text from the One Ring on it. This is Kyle Souza from the Talking Geek. Wanted to do a review of something a little different. A Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign called Cat and Mouse by Kobold Press. It was written by Richard Pett with Greg Marks. Greg did the upconverting to 5th edition after Richard did the original writing. This is an adventure for first level characters. You'll notice that I printed this out and put it into a binder because I got the PDF of it from a Humble Bundle deal. I'll make sure I include the link to that, as well as Loot Crate, where I did get this cool cup. So, this is set in a area called, or a city called Per Bastet, which you could think of as like a sprawling ancient metropolis, like a Cairo type area. We begin with this poem that kind of sets the tone. Two little kittens one stormy night began to quarrel and then to fight. One had a mouse, the other had none, and that's the way the quarrel begun. It's a traditional nursery rhyme by an unknown author within this world. And basically, your characters, which are supposed to be 4 to 6 level 1 characters, we did it with 3 level 1 characters, go through. They are approached by Mistress Henna. They're then approached by a man by the name of Hakan. Let me get the full name. Hakan al-Kareen Zamir Nil Nu Chatur. And Mistress Henna is Mistress Henna Jalidi. And they are after a artifact called the Grimmelkin Eye, which a man named Rahid, his full name, let me get that for you, has taken. And there's a lot of background in here. Rahid's name is Rahid Wa Moy Matiba, and some other characters are Heth, known as Festering Heth or Azhad al-Heth, Umema is another character in here. We have Nasur, another character in here. Akraf, another character in here. There are were-rats, there are giant rats, there are panthers, there are gnolls, there are rat folk. This is the City of Cats. That's what Per Bastet is. So it is the City of Cats, or Eternal City of Cats, whose patron goddess is Bastet. And it's a pretty cool story. So let me get to how we actually ran through things. We did it, like I said, in... Oh, here's the Grimmelkin Eye. Here's the thing that they're after. So we did it in 4 hours with 3 players and 1 DM. I was the DM. I normally DM our one-shots. It was me, 2 guys that I normally play with, one who's usually the DM and I'm usually a player, and then a new person that we haven't played with before. So I was DMing while we got to see how this new guy plays. And it was fun. You know, it'd be more fun to spend more time with it. The way this adventure is written, you could do it very compact, very quick, like we did. Kind of simplifying some things, streamlining some things, glossing over a few things. Or you could spread it out and you could make it an 8-hour one-shot, like a lot of people do when they spend a whole day on it. Or we could have, really, there's 3 natural breaking points, so we could have broken it into a 3-shot for us and really gotten into a lot of role-playing. And one thing that I thought was very interesting is very early on, it has the line in here, it is entirely feasible that the PCs, let's try, third time's the charm, right? It is entirely feasible that the PCs could conclude this adventure without personally spilling any blood. It's also conversely an adventure that readily allows those who enjoy slaughter without dialogue to enter the fray, wreak havoc, and take the rewards. When I read that, just knowing the guys that I play with, I was like, there's no way we're going to get this through this thing without fighting. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a lot. This is a really cool book. Don't let my poor delivery deter you from using this or another Kobold Press adventure. And they don't pay me for any of this. I paid for this, and I think it's cool, and I want to tell people about it, just to clear that up. Anyways. Knowing my characters, my players, I should say, and how they normally play it, I was like, all right, well, we're going to be fighting. I'm going to have to really condense this And then they just kept skipping fight after fight after fight. And I ended up having to force a fight at the end because they almost skipped the last fight. And I knew one of them was definitely not going to be happy if there wasn't a fight. One of them would have been fine without any fighting. And then I wasn't sure about the third player because, again, he was new. Though he enjoyed the fight, even though he picked a very non-combative character, he did say as far as gameplay was concerned that was the most fun time for him. So, what do you actually do? Well, you go through this city, you have to talk to people, there's opportunities for these fights to occur, there's also ways to diffuse it. It's really well written, and that's what I wanted to get across with this review, is that this is very thought out. I've done my own one-shot, writing one-shots and stories for people, and there's some stuff that I had to come up with because you can't think of everything that people think of with this. But it's funny, some of the stuff that they didn't think would be written down actually was. Like there's one point where you could chop down the support beam for a house. It would make the whole thing collapse. And they thought they were being clever when they came up with that idea. They ended up not acting on that idea, but they actually have a plan for that in the book. So they did a really good job of thinking of like how will players get creative, but you can't think of everything. For example, at the very end, they went a totally different way than how the book lays out any of the options for ending, and that's okay. That's the fun of a role-playing game, is being on your feet, and that's the fun part and the challenge part of being a DM or a GM in one of these adventures. So I'd asked, hey, do you guys want to do a dungeon crawl like we did last time I DM'd, or do you want to do more of a quest type thing? And they said quest, so I went with this cat and mouse adventure, and it was pretty fun. They liked it. They all said that they liked it. They were curious about all the things that they had missed, though. I was like, well, had you roughed up this cat, you would have got into a fight with these two catfolk. Had you gone to this place early instead of deciding to play around town till you were on time to a certain meeting point, then you would have had this trap to deal with, and you would have had this fight to deal with. And then had you stayed there long enough, you would have had this other fight to deal with. And I don't want to give anything away because I think you should get this PDF and go through it. And I was like, okay, well, in the information gathering stage during phase 2, which they really did a lot of information gathering in stage 1, a lot more than expected, there were 2 opportunities, really 3 opportunities for a fight there. The 2 were very close to each other. And they skipped all those. And then they went to another place, and there was an opportunity for 2 fights there, and they went with neither fight there. And then we got to kind of the end of phase 2 in the book, and it was time for us to wrap up because we started at 8:30. We try to end around midnight each time we play, just because we do have things to do the next day. And we went a little bit late, but we got into our final battle just before midnight, and they squared off, and that took half an hour to get through the final battle. And they did a good job, and as the DM, I did fudge a little bit just to make the battle kind of go in their favor. From the start, wanted to make it easier for them because I was only playing with 3 first-level characters instead of what it suggests a minimum of 4 to 6. And since I didn't take away any of the bad guys, I didn't decrease the bad guys' numbers, I did decide to make them each a little bit weaker. Just play it that way, more of a numbers. I focused on quantity instead of quality for the final fight, and it worked out really well. 2 of the guys got really close to death. One of them had to do some healing. Nobody did die or become unconscious. And they got to have fun. There has to be that element of danger for it really to be fun. And then I was like, well, okay, well, what are you going to do now? And there's a whole plan, 2 plans for them to do that could have come to a head. And they decided to go a completely different direction. And even one of the guys afterwards was like, well, hey, why did you even suggest that route? And the player who had was like, well, I just thought that was the right thing to do in character. And it worked out really well. And it was a nice, clean ending to it. They said it was pretty fun. So I've got a lot more of these Kobold Press campaigns to run. Some short ones, some long ones from the same Humble Bundle. And if you don't know Humble Bundle, I'm going to put a link to it for you to check it out. They don't have this book on there anymore, but they have some other ones. They're always doing different book deals. Basically, every 2 weeks, they've got a whole fresh set of content with new deals coming out every 2 to 3 weekdays. And it's got a lot of cool stuff. I get a lot of digital comics that way, a lot of sci-fi and fantasy books. This was the second time they've done a Dungeons & Dragons one. I missed out the first time. I wasn't playing back then. I think that was 2014 when they ran it. It was all R.A. Salvatore stuff and Forgotten Realms campaigns. But this was Kobold Press and Frog Games, I believe, was the other one in this Humble Bundle. But I mean, this is some good quality stuff, and I'd like to get that across. You know, I printed it in full color, and it's got a nice look to it, got a nice feel to it. There's some good graphics. I'm a fan of maps. I like anything that feels like kind of a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis RPG, and I mean, this map could have been straight out of a Zelda game, which, Zelda fan. So, you know, that one's a good one. You've just got some artwork, just some interesting artwork. You want me to I could just hold this in front of my face the whole time. That'd be a fun video. Probably better for everybody that has to watch it. You know, you just got some little insets to give you an idea of what different characters look like. Again, more maps. Some of them are simple diagrams. Some of them are more, what should I say, more detailed. You know, like that first one is probably the most detailed one. But this is another good diagram in there. I skipped a couple in there. So it's pretty cool. And of course they've got some other books. So you can check out koboldpress.com. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that review. And if you have any other Dungeons & Dragons one-shot resources or campaign resources that you'd like to tell people about, leave it in the comments. Thanks.